Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Smile and Save podcast, brought to you by 7 Protect Credit Union. Now, this is episode 5, and today we've got a very special guest. We've got our very own Jon Sykes from the business development team at 7 Protect. Hello, Jon. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Tom. Hello, everybody, and I'm really pleased to be here.
Good. So today we're going to be talking a lot about Jon's history in the RAF and his story, and mainly about transitioning from the RAF and how he's found that, some of the challenges that he's found along the way, and hopefully give a few tips on how to successfully transition and make things as easy as possible when transitioning into civilian life. So, Jon, just to get us started, if you'd like to just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you.
Thanks, Tom. So I'm, as Tom says, I'm Jon Sykes. I've worked here at 7 Protect Credit Union now since January 2023. But prior to that, I'm very proud to be able to say that I served nearly 37 years in His Majesty's Royal Air Force, joined in 1986, straight from school, and finished off as the Warrant Officer Welfare Development for training, policy and coordination across a very large organisation.
So if we go back to when you joined then, Jon, just tell us a little bit about how you first joined the RAF, so maybe why you joined and a little bit about what it was like joining back then.
So this is prior to the internet and mobile phone technology and all the sort of things. So going back to the mid-80s, life seemed to be a lot simpler. And originally I had no ambition to join the military whatsoever. I really wanted to be a football player, 5'7" at that stage, quite small in stature, but as a goalkeeper, wasn't very tall. So every time I tried to tell people that I wanted to be a professional footballer, I wasn't tall enough. The irony is I then grew to become 6'3", 193 centimetres some years later. But the fact is that the ambition to join the Royal Air Force came from the fact that my brother had served in the Royal Air Force. Wasn't keen on going for further education, so basically what I chose to do was go and have a go in the Royal Air Force and apply to join as a what was back then administration clerk, and I joined very green, July 1986, age 16 and a half. Not very smiley, so the irony of a smiley and savvy conversation that we're having now, I wasn't like that at stage. My first few months didn't really want to be there. I had no ambition to serve as long as I actually did. And I often think to myself, what would have happened to me if after my first phone call home, which was about 2 weeks into the training, I'd have had my wish of being able to go home. So, hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, I'm sure things would have been very, very different, and you may not have ended up where you are now. So,
possibly not.
So going back to the early days of your time in the RAF and working through, what are some of the best things that you learned throughout your time in the RAF, and what are some of the things that it taught you, maybe some of the lessons and stories that you picked up along the way?
So I think the first thing that I would take away from what I learned back then, what I followed through my career, and what I hopefully do today, is to keep up my mindset about not only how I am as a person, how I go about day to day, but the way I treat other people, or the way that other people perceive the way that I treat them. So I think I stayed true to the value from age 16 and a half all the way through to just be myself, and basically the rest would kind of take care of itself. I am a naturally friendly, excitable, engaging individual, and as the years went by, I started to grow in the confidence, and it might surprise lots of people who know me to find out that I'm not naturally exuberant. It comes with a lot of trial, a lot of error, and a lot of just keeping to the mantra of just being myself and treating those people the way they wanted to be treated, not necessarily the way I wanted to be treated.
Yeah, I think that ties in a lot to my next question, to be fair, which is, and later on in your career, you ended up working, as you say, in welfare, and it played a big part in your career in the RAF. Tell us a little bit about your time working in welfare and kind of the role you played and what you took from that time working in welfare in the Royal Air Force.
Okay, so again, when I first took an interest in working in welfare, it would have been about 2007. And I was on a tour where I spent some time in the Middle East and other areas that people will be aware of, Afghanistan, Iraq, and the deployment system and the other. And I didn't necessarily fall into thinking that that would be where I'd end up this and the other. But I started off in my welfare journey learning a skill called trauma risk management, which was based on bad things happening to individuals and just talking them through at the end of the incident that occurred, how they were feeling. And the system of that training was about most of the time when people talk to somebody else, they start to feel better, reducing stigma, all the sort of thing. And I just took the practitioner course in about 2008, then became what was known as a team leader in 2009, and then took the opportunity to become an instructor down at Air Command at a place called Royal Air Force Holton at the time. And at that stage, people were like, why would you want to do that? People weren't really taking it too seriously. But as the journey goes on about who people speak to when they feel uncomfortable and this and the other, nobody in 2024 seems to be questioning that sort of pathway that I took. And in fact, yeah, again, no natural ambition in this area whatsoever, but trial by error, this and the other. I think the story of welfare support and indeed talking and listening to other people has become more common nowadays than it would have been back in, yeah, as late as 2010. So I think we've seen quite a lot of changes for the better in that sort of area, and that's how moving forward I took the people helping people message that came with the credit unions, which I'm sure we're going to come to in a moment. So hopefully that answers it.
So eventually, you got to a point where you were looking to retire and leave the armed forces. Could you tell us a little bit about that decision and some of the factors that you considered when weighing up this decision of whether to stay or whether to move on?
So yeah, I'm very honest about this. In a previous journey back in 2017, I fell quite ill, and obviously that determined my decision to try to move into the policy and training area to try to make sure that other people knew there were places to go, setting up Succeed, this and the other. And certainly when we first started the journey of setting the course up, it was around COVID-19, working from home, all the sort of things. I kept coming across barriers where people were telling me, oh, it's going to be difficult, it's not going to happen, it's not going to do this and the other. So by the time the course finally went live in 2022, around about the July time, I was out on a walk with Andrea, and thankfully for Andrea, nothing that has happened in my life since 1992 has not involved my family. And we were on a walk in that July, and I made the decision on that walk that I'd taken my career in terms of where I currently was, and I asking the question, well, where can I go from here? And I think we both naturally came to the decision that day, well, actually, there may be other things that you can have a look into, and not necessarily made a decision as to what it was going to be. And then on the Monday, I went in, not impulsively, because I've been thinking about it probably naturally for a while. I said, well, actually, I've taken this as far as I think I can. I'm looking at an opportunity to leave. And then absolutely opportunely, without any notice whatsoever, and little story, I never answer this to numbers that I don't know. I took a phone call 100% from a number that I didn't recognise, and it was Rob. And thankfully, more about this organisation later. We'd met a couple of years earlier. We'd become very friendly. And the basis of what Rob was saying to me, there was an opportunity coming with Serve and Protect Credit Union, and would I want to come and have a look? I thought at that stage it was another friend of mine who I told. I was thinking, because the number of people I told was quite small, and I thought it was somebody just having my eyes. basically saying to me, and I was like, yeah, whatever. But here we are, 2 years later, and the rest speaks for itself. Over.
There you go. So before we move on to the next question, when you in the time after you made that decision to leave, did you have any idea of what it was going to be like? Did you have any sort of presumptions of what the process would be like and what the challenges might be?
So, in a short answer, no is the answer. And again, being in the military for so long is something called a bubble. And you get so used to certain things happening and this and the other. There were so many unknown unknowns between the decision time in July and me actually starting in the January that thankfully Serve and Protect Credit Union made it as easy for me as possible in terms of the first conversation. Big shout out to the people, including yourself, on the day that I came across my first ever visit into a civilian company, looking into this and the other. And I walked away from that first day with a degree of something called imposter syndrome, which I know I'm going to talk about for the rest of my life, in terms of you only know what you know. But what I can tell you, this decision, some nearly 2 years later from the original point, is starting to absolutely, and excuse the pun, pay dividend in terms of what it's done to me as a person, but also what I know I've still got to offer in terms of being able to support as many people as possible. So I hope that answers your question, Tom.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I like the pun as well. Once you did decide to leave and you'd made that decision and you knew what was coming next for you in terms of joining Serve and Protect, what was that initial transition period like? Was there anything that you were concerned about, or maybe even looking forward to when leaving, and how was that early stage?
So I think you might fall under the illusion that people that have worked in the military, and I know I've got my history behind me, and I like to talk about what I've done, what I haven't done. This, I think the illusion is that we're absolutely clad iron, nothing bothers us, all the sort of things. But the simple answer to your question, when I first arrived in January 2023, first in the office, was absolutely terrifying. Absolutely, to the illusion as to culturally, close knit family environment, all the sort of things, was to absolutely, despite the way I was probably looking on the outside, inwardly, I was thinking to myself, Jon Sykes, what have you done? What have you actually walked yourself into, this and the other? But after a short period of time, those feelings, those which I now know are absolutely natural for people this and the other, but the imposter syndrome in the first month was absolutely terrifying, almost to the extent that I would go back to my family at the end of an evening, this and the other, with people are telling me, "Well done, you're doing all the sort of things, this and the other," and I'd be thinking, what am I doing? Why am I here? What have I got? And then obviously we can fast forward it into where we are today. And that over time, with the right mentor, the right training, the right empowerment, and the right culture, will absolutely try and set you up to succeed. So I think, yeah, terrifying in a short answer.
Yeah, of course. I guess it's only natural, isn't it? Anything that's new is going to be scary. But in those early days and weeks, was there anything that you maybe missed or didn't miss from the armed forces that was a little bit different in civilian life?
So having to work out what to wear on a daily basis was interesting,
Yeah.
and then basically not swapping one uniform with another. So basically getting your own style, getting your own feelings, all the sort of things. And again, with great mentoring, Rob, people like yourself, people like the rest of my team, this and the other, really made me feel welcome, made me feel reassured. And one thing I would suggest to other people when they do into this, you're never too old to learn. You're never too old to ask questions, and perhaps I've asked too many questions, but I don't think you can ever ask too many questions. But the fact of the matter is that, and in terms of Do I miss? Yes, naturally. I'm always going to look back and say to myself that you wake up in the morning and you know that something isn't there, but the opportunity to work for the credit union that looks after the armed forces sort of kept you in the loop anyway. So I know that's not the only sector that we look after proudly. We look after four others, which again I've grown to know over the last some 18 months. But the fact of the matter is that, yeah, you're never told to learn, no silly questions, and if in doubt, just ask.
Yeah, of course, and yeah, we'll touch on the support that we offer as well in a moment to those services. So, what are some of the challenges that you face that others who are possibly close to transition or preparing for transition, some of the challenges that you face that they might face, just to be aware of, because there might be things that people expect to face in terms of challenges, but there might be some unexpected ones as well.
Okay, so I think this can be not just military. I think this is about all people that are coming to the end of the
Of
sectors that we
course,
proudly look after. Is that don't be afraid of asking any questions that people might be expecting because of your experience and the time that you've served in this and to know. So try to keep remember, it's not just about you, it's also affecting your family and your loved ones. So keep them informed and ask them if they've got any questions. Um, know the question. So make sure that any sort of question that you're asking. So, for example, one of the things that absolutely I wish I'd have known, and I now do know, and I'll pass on to everybody, if you're going into a pension scheme, you might not necessarily get that pension scheme on the day that you leave. And for example, there was a 6 week gap between me leaving a salary and receiving that. For some people, that could have been quite a long time without any sort of money. And just to, as I say, don't leave an organisation with any sort of shoelaces undone, and basically try to tie up as many of the loose ends as you can. Because one thing that I know is different in this world is, for example, things that are taken for granted in terms of military, medical, for example, dental, all the sort of things. Um, there are things that I now know that I wish I'd have known back in January 2023. So I think my goal in terms of agreeing to come and speak on something like this is to try to make sure that people don't make the same errors that I think I made in my initial transition. So I think because I'd served again 30 odd years and the likes, people just assume that I would know certain questions. So again, it doesn't matter what background you are, this and the other. Speak to your family, see if they've got any questions that need to be this and the other, and take all of the support that's available. So there's a myriad of absolute support out there, and certainly over the last 18 months since joining here, I've worked really hard to get to know as many of those agencies as possible in terms of what is out there. And if I can help people just by speaking freely this afternoon, yeah, just don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of transition. Transition is a thing that is going to happen to all of us in the time this and the other, and it's something. Be proud of your transition and just um, know that imposter syndrome is a thing, and know that even today there are going to be things that happen that, yeah, sometimes people might feel a little bit of a stigma asking the question. You're never too old or young to learn. Over.
no, it's really good advice. I think you touched a little bit there on the support that's available. I was just going to ask you what support is available both before transitioning, during, and then afterwards as well. At those different stages, who's there to help? What sort of systems or support is there that people should know about?
So, what the beauty of all of the sectors that we look after I now know is all they've got human resources areas. So, lean on human resource areas. Don't be afraid of asking the questions. That is absolutely what they're there to do. They're there to help you, and they would prefer you to ask those questions rather than leave and then try and tie the shoelace up after. It's quite difficult to do it when you're outside and the likes. There are lots of agencies, and again, I won't just choose the military ones, but you've got things like the Veterans Welfare Service for the military. You've got a lot of great networks out there for ex-armed forces community. I know the police, prisons, probation service, fire services, and indeed health and social care have all got wellbeing teams speak to them. They are absolutely your local Google, human Google, in terms of making sure that you're asking the right sort of questions. So again, a lot of time when that support is out there, possibly could be taken for granted, but shouldn't be taken for granted, especially not in transition. So yeah, I mean, they would be the go-to people I'd go to all the time. And then obviously you've got your tried and tested asking Google itself, asking the internet, but more importantly, you can lean on other veterans, people that have been through the same sort of thing that you've been through, and try to make sure that stuff that was going through your mind, share it with them, just so that they don't think they're the only people that are going through what you've been through. Over.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that as well, about um, keeping in touch as well after transitioning, because obviously yourself, you did 37 years. You know, you met a lot of different people and spent a lot of time with them. Do you think it's important to try and keep those connections there even into transition? Do you think that's something that people should, or that you'd recommend to people?
So I think definitely there is a two answers to this. There is time to let go, and in terms of a well-known Disney film and a princess on a mountain, let it go. In terms of not trying to stay too close, but also you've got that other side of it whereby there are bits of it you don't want to let go. So staying in touch with things like your associations, staying in touch with knowing where the benevolent funds are, knowing where this, that, and the other, and just keeping in that way. But yeah, two answers to that, Tom. You can not let it go totally, and it'll just make your imposter syndrome feel potentially worse than what it needs to be. But also never let go in terms of always be proud of where you've come from, and yeah, they would be where I'd be.
Yeah, no, it's a really good answer. Really, really good. So yeah, I mean, you are now sort of connected to the armed forces in a very different way. So you now find yourself as business development officer at Serve and Protect. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your role, what it is you get up to, and sort of the work that you do for Serve and Protect?
So, in a nutshell, being myself, engagement, making sure that just because I know what is available from our credit union, not necessarily is going to be well known from everybody. So, treating all of the people that we come to from all of those five sectors. So, making sure that I just don't stay in my comfort zone of just looking after people in the military. And whilst in my first few months, that was a natural transition for me to be making, and I was slowly but surely mentored amazingly by Rob in particular, and the rest of you in the business development marketing team, just being given the freedom to, excuse the pun, fly, in terms of making sure that as I started to get comfortable in where I was, basically just being given the opportunity to engage at all levels. So that goes from the strategic level, in terms of some of the agencies that we look after, to the localized management level, but more importantly, the people that we absolutely are trying to help, which is the people and their families themselves, and trying to interact naturally in all of those levels. And I think the beauty I've tried to bring into there, I always, when I'm engaging with anybody, try to get myself at their level in terms of making sure that I'm a family person. So if I'm dealing with a person who's got a family, I've absolutely got some life skills in there that basically allow me to interact with them. I've been a manager and the likes. Management sometimes isn't easy and this and the other, but reflecting on that and knowing that is not a bad way to do that, known as the B2B side. But the B2A side is obviously critical too, in terms of just not being afraid. If you absolutely believe in what you are talking to, in terms of the people helping people message, in terms of if we are able to help as many people that some people can't help, in terms of their financial behaviour, financial education, financial well-being, and ultimately their financial resilience. Yeah, just naturally try to engage at all levels, Tom. And that, in a nutshell, sounds easy. It's taking some time to do, but also be aware it's going to take some time. So just be easy on yourself sometimes. Don't be too hard on yourself, and basically know that whilst you have got lots of experience in life, this and the other, it's only 18 months in, and just try to, yeah, be as kind to yourself as you can be as you're trying to be to others. Unravel that at some stage.
No, fantastic. So obviously your experience in the armed forces has obviously helped you with this role. Um, how do you feel the welfare side of things relates to what you do day to day? Because obviously, as a credit union, we're ultimately there to help people out financially. How
Yeah.
do you think the welfare side of things relates to what you do now?
So this has come in my journey quite a long way in quite a short time. So I think uh, stay true to the value of the credit union is based on the people helping people. Stay true to the fact that it's about a family, but also be realistic in terms of what you can achieve and what you can't achieve. Also, try to make welfare not a scary word, and basically, welfare can, in some cases, make people shudder because and this and the other. So try to simplify that word in terms of what we're trying to achieve, and remembering that the people that we're speaking to, sometimes it isn't necessarily through any sort of design that the choices that they made were made, and the likes. But remember, the individual that you're talking to in terms of financial support, it is their financial issue and not the financial issue of us. But just try to level it in terms of what we can achieve in terms of what is available out there. But also, if the individual does not want to take the support that we are trying to offer, yeah, take it and just say we've tried and we've done this and the other. And I think if you knit that all together, because if you try to force things on people, sometimes naturally they don't want to do it or this and the other. So being able to put a process in place, and I'm very proud of the fact that we've put this in place, and it'll start to become day to day business and all the sort of things. It means that naturally we'll be doing what we've been doing anyway. So don't be scared of it. Know that everybody that works here is here because of the fact of that people helping people message, but also, yeah, try to just lead that person that you're talking to or that family that you're dealing with uh, through their journey at their pace. Over.
Fantastic. No, it's really good to hear. So finally, just to wrap us up before we finish off, for anyone who's close to leaving the armed forces and is close to starting that transition process, what are your top tips or top things for people to think about just to make that process a little bit easier?
That is a great question. I think uh, don't be afraid of first off making the decision to leave, and once you've made the decision to leave, don't procrastinate. Don't just talk about leaving and then don't leave. Once you've done it, stay true to it. Naturally, if you've got skills or you've got something about you that can be transferred into what my dad called the real world, I now call this world, that will naturally happen. So do not underestimate the skills and the experience that you've got. They might not necessarily look the same as degrees or the wordings that people sometimes use, but if you believe in the things that you've done and you've stayed true to that training and all the sort of things, those skills will transfer into where we're going to be. Don't be afraid of asking questions. I've already alluded to the fact that there's stuff that when I did leave, I wish I knew, and then I found out afterwards, which was quite difficult in terms of knowing it. Look out all of those key contacts, human resources, your current line manager, your um, yeah, well-being teams, and this and the other. Look out for those other agencies, but more importantly, try to find somebody else who's been through the same journey that you're going to go through. And again, they're out there. We will absolutely look back positively in terms of the journeys we're going to be, because we want to make it as successful and as seamless and as all the sort of things that might come across as cliches as possible for people, because it is a gift that is going to happen to all of us, that one day we will either retire and just be able to stop working, or we can work as long as we feel fit and able to work. So quite a long answer, but an answer all the same.
That's brilliant, John. No, thank you very much. And I think we've kind of covered all bases there, so we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us. Is there anything else that you wanted to say just before we go?
I could say lots of cliches. I could say lots of things that are naturally this and the other, but just finish on. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be able not only to come and speak on something like this today, but also thank you for the phone call that happened in July 2022, because we've seemed to have come quite some way in a successful transition. And I will only know if it's a successful transition by carrying out this journey. So thank you to all of you. Thank you to you for putting this on. And let's all smile and save.
There we go.
Sykes out.
Couldn't have said it any better.
Sykes out.
Cheers, John. Thanks very much, guys, for listening to this episode of the Smile and Save podcast. Hopefully, if you are someone that's close to transition or someone that's maybe helping others with that, hopefully that's giving you some real life experience and some tips to carry forward. But otherwise, make sure you subscribe or follow the podcast to hear more episodes like this, a lot of financial education and tips and things like that. So thank you very much for listening. Be sure to follow and subscribe to the podcast, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you.